What's up guys, I'm Jeff, the founder of Worldwide Cyclery, and today we're going to dive into a review of the Box 2 11-speed drivetrain. So, who is Box Components? You may have not heard about them. They're not a huge brand. They're still pretty much a small brand. It was founded by Toby Henderson. Toby Henderson is, to me, an iconic old racer. He was a BMX racer and a mountain bike racer, and I think he's been racing since the 70s. He was super popular in the 80s and 90s as a racer. Incredible dude, and it kind of takes a guy with that amount of skill and balls on a bike to then start a company after his racing career has ended and dive into the drivetrain world among a bunch of other components. Box is making a bunch of BMX race bike components and mountain bike stuff. Most notably, and what we're going to talk about today, is their drivetrain, which I really admire Toby's ambition to take that on, because drivetrains in the mountain bike world are basically dominated by SRAM and Shimano, being those two 800-pound gorillas. The whole thing is a giant patent minefield, so for him to come in with Box and to start engineering and producing drivetrain components is a phenomenal feat and really cool to see. This is their second rendition of the drivetrain, and let's dive into some of the specs of it right now. So the Box 2 drivetrain is an 11-speed drivetrain. It's got two versions of the cassette. One is 1146 range, the other is 1150 range. They both fit on the Shimano XG free hub body. XG free hub body.
Oh wait.
Which makes sense because the overall price point of the drivetrain is $279.96 up to $309.96, depending on if you go with the 11 to 46 or the 1150 version. That price point drivetrain, it really does make sense for it to be something that's compatible with a Shimano freehub body, because that just makes more sense at that price point. This is really close to the SRAM NX Eagle drivetrain in terms of price point. I believe that's about $275 when you're talking chain, cassette, derailleur, and shifter. GX is a bit of a bump right there, so this is kind of closer to NX, but not quite on its way to GX. Maybe close to that like SLX price point with Shimano. Shimano's pricing is kind of all over the place. That's the price point wise. That's sort of the specs there. Some of the highlights of this drivetrain, it does have an adjustable clutch, so Shimano has that as well. I actually really like that. That's something SRAM lacks that I wish they had on their drivetrains. That allows you to just determine how stiff you want your clutch. That kind of helps chain retention, and it's also a part that wears out. So on a SRAM derailleur, once that thing totally wears out, you kind of need a new derailleur, whereas a Shimano or a Box, you're actually able to adjust that, which I really like. Shifter wise, it is a paddle shifter. You can use your thumb to push forward for the downshift, and you can also use your index finger. So kind of similar to a Shimano shifter in that sense. You can use thumb or index. Other than that, weight-wise, we're going to have a screen pop up right now so you can see how this thing compares in terms of weight and price point to all of the SRAM drivetrains as well as some of the Shimano ones. Check that out. So now that some of the specs are out of the way and comparisons to the other popular drivetrains out there, how does this thing actually work on the trail? We've been riding this. When I say we, I mean myself and our head mechanic Liam here, the 1150 cassette version with the extra wide derailleur. So if you do, there's two different derailleur types I forgot to mention. If you go with the 11 to 46 cassette, you get a little bit different derailleur. Then if you go with the 1150 cassette, you get the extra wide derailleur version. That's what we've been riding. So 1150 range, SRAM NX Eagle. Again, goes on a Shimano freehub body, which is great. When we first put this thing on, I can confidently say that in terms of shifting performance, it's basically goes, fist for fist with SRAM NX Eagle. The shifting speed, the reliability of the shifts, sort of the overall feel of the shifter and of each shift, whether it be up or down, is basically the same as NX Eagle, which is really good. And you would expect that, right? At this price point, this thing should be a properly shifting, good, awesome drivetrain, and it is. And it definitely makes sense for its price point. I wouldn't say that it's considerably better than NX Eagle in terms of performance, but I wouldn't say it's worse. And being that the price points are so similar, that makes sense. Shifting performance is right on par there. Same thing with like a Shimano SLX drivetrain as well. Some of the things I didn't like riding this thing, there isn't, at least right now, a sort of a matchmaker clamp where you can connect the shifter to the brake lever to have sort of that seamless integration like you can if you're running a Shimano shifter and a Shimano brake, or a SRAM shifter and a SRAM brake. I really like that sort of, you know, matchmaker, or Shimano calls it iSpec connection, that looks nice and clean. You can't do that at the moment with the box drivetrain, so that's something that kind of bugged me because it just makes the cockpit not look quite as clean. Minor gripe, but something to note. The other thing I noticed right off the bat was sort of just the feel of the shifter being a little bit, I would say, flexier and a little bit cheaper feeling, but it doesn't feel flexier or cheaper than an SLX or an NX Eagle shifter. However, all of those feel a little flexier and a little cheaper than what I typically ride, which is an XO1 shifter. I like that, but again, you can't really compare it to that given that it's such a you know, vastly different price point here. When you're comparing it to an NX shifter or an SLX shifter, you know, par for par right there. Shifting performance, shifter feel, everything there has been awesome. One of the really cool things that Box is doing is lifetime warranty. So if there's any defect on any of the products that they sell drivetrain wise, they're basically replacing them, nearly no questions asked. And I think they're even running a couple random things of if you just break the thing, they're gonna replace it. What? Don't quote me on that one. Box has been doing a number of different sort of marketing techniques to get people to try this thing out and to trust the drivetrain and realize how cool it is and how different it is from the other guys. Speaking of how different it is, in terms of performance, it's really not that different. It's still a drivetrain. It's 11 speeds. It's got 1150 range. It's not really anything you'd consider revolutionary, but it does perform well for the price point, and the weight is right on par with the other big competitors, which is really cool. And again, one of the big pluses for me is that it does have a user adjustable clutch. I really like that. Who is this for, and why would you buy it over SRAM or Shimano? Well, to me, honestly, in my opinion, why you would buy this over SRAM or Shimano is really a statement, right? It's a statement that you're supporting smaller brands like Box Components. Maybe you're a Toby Henderson fan like I am myself, and you kind of, you know, like being different in that sense. I mean, when people see this, they're definitely surprised, and their immediate reaction is like, whoa, what derailleur is that? Which is cool, right? And if that's kind of what you're going for on your bike, this is a drivetrain that is going to be perfect for you, because it's everyone else out there at the trailhead is likely going to have a SRAM or Shimano drivetrain, and you're going to roll up with this thing, and you know they're definitely going to be questioning and wondering what the heck it is. So on-trail performance, it's great. Goes, you know, par for par with the competitors right there in terms of price point. Really enjoy that aspect of it. Other than that, not too much to say. Great drivetrain. Awesome to see another competitor out there just, you know, working on new innovative products. Box is always making new stuff and coming out with new things, and they just care. They're really like on top of their game in terms of innovation, and you know, going for new mountain bike products right now, especially innovating in the drivetrain market. So it'll be really cool to see how they continue to evolve their drivetrain and what comes next. Maybe some higher end price points, maybe some lower end price points off of the Box 2. Maybe that'll be coming out for Box 3 or on for there. Let us know, would you ever try the Box drivetrain? Let us know in the comments. Share this with your buddies that might be interested in a unique drivetrain that's something different than SRAM or Shimano. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys in the next one.